Alright, hello and welcome everybody to a Minecraft Musings in the morning before work. I forgot we were exploring, but let's go ahead and go with it. I love exploring. Just kind of running around, see what this world has to offer. All the cool sights, like there's some Badlands over there, which are pretty interesting. A lot of, what is that, terracotta. I was going to say adobe or clay, but adobe houses were made of clay. Some of the Native Americans and the original inhabitants of this country, America, where I'm at, um, used to make their houses out of mud bricks and such, and it was great for keeping them cool in the summer and then warm in the winter. Oh yes, we'll leave the armadillos alone because we have a whole farm of armadillos and three sets of wolf armor back at the main base. So that's pretty neat. So, but anyways, whew, big things going. So I think I have a much more clear and concise project plan for the open and transparent voting. And it's really so simple. I'm surprised it hasn't happened before, but the thing is I need to make sure that it works or that it scales for such large numbers as the population of this country. And the general idea needs to be so simple and so easily transmissible that it can be transferred to every country on Earth. All the countries should be able to vote with this system because in reality, every adult human deserves a say in their government. Like otherwise, it's just treating them like children, even into their old age. Like if you don't trust them to make responsible decisions, then you might as well just keep them in a kindergarten classroom for the rest of their life. Like that's basically how people that are not in power see it. Now, how people in power see it, and again, this is all conjecture, this is speculation, stuff like that. But connecting dots where they may or may not be. But this is just from my experience, what I see. The people in power are afraid of the anarchy and chaos that could happen if untrained and unskilled people got into the seats of power. Now, like for America, and I can't speak to other countries as much, and I've seen that, like there's elections in Russia, which who knows how fair those are. There's a lot of controversy of our elections here in America with the recent Trump debacle, like, and whatever you believe in that. I mean, because really, it starts out as a rigged game anyway. Like, it's the top performers of like the wealthy families and the people that are able to go to college, go to graduate school, go to law school, go to all these things, and then they have to pay all that back. And for wealthy families, no problem. It's an investment in the future of this family, the crest and all this and blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, the other like 90% of people are over here doing what they can, working menial jobs, doing this, doing that, trying to scrape a living, trying to find love, trying to start their own families, doing all the living, but with a much more limited set of resources. Now, when you look at it overall, well, okay, so actually let's back up a little bit. Every person is just a person, no more, no less. And so when we get confused or surprised at the way people behave, it's really our own fault for not understanding people at a basic level. Like, and again, we'll constantly go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Maslow's, basically saying that people will try to get their needs met. We are fueled by, well, we are driven by, are we hungry? We need to eat. Are we tired? We need to sleep. Are we cold? We need warmth or shelter. I mean, are we lonely? We need, love and attention. Like all of these things and the way you get your needs met varies. Now, and a lot of that, there's shortcuts in just about everything. And oof, learned that the hard way. Shortcuts with relationships and whatnot. I mean, oh wait, did we miss? That almost looks like a dot that I missed, and I do not want any dots left on this. No, it might be just a water dot or something. Okay. Anyways, just to make sure, oof, and those are potentially deadly chasms. I don't know. That's why I think most people should see a wide range of films and TV shows and content from all sorts of people. And if TikTok was allowed in China, I would start a TikTok account just because all these people in China are being treated like children. Like they're not trusted with information of the world, and then they're expected to perform and succeed and to create these great, wonderful things, for the glory of China when you're stunting their growth by limiting what they're exposed to. And when you limit what people are exposed to, all you can expect is as much creativity that you've allowed them. If you only allow them to see the insides of a box, they're only going to make things that reflect what they see in the box. Like if you allow them to see a much bigger box, like all of human creativity and ingenuity, then they're going to start creating some really interesting things. And that's what we have here in capitalistic countries. And then Dubai is like hyper capitalism. It's so funny because a lot of countries are more reserved, more conservative, more protect good values and don't allow shortcuts and things like this because that could lead to a lot of pain and death and ugliness. But and like their stance on alcohol, they've been strict anti-alcohol for the longest time. And there was like the Islamic Revolution where they just said enough is enough. We're tired of all this craziness and all these shenanigans, and we need to get back to our roots. We need to get back to religion. And that's all organized religion ever is. It's just humanity's best attempt at explaining life, explaining why things happen, and then trying to learn and move forward with it. And, all these different tribes of people across the world have tried to explain things their own way in their own specific flavor of control through government or religion or even social influence. That's the best kind of control because it's usually coming from a place of understanding and compassion, being like, okay, well, no, we're here on the equal level, equal footing, down here on the ground level, and we'll try to fix these problems. So, ooh, also, it's nighttime. Should I risk? I did not get a bed. Never mind. If I switch it out to peaceful, I'm sure we're going to get attacked by phantoms. I just saw all those sheep, so next time we see some sheep, maybe we'll borrow some wool. And I don't have shears, so you know what that means. We're gonna have to get violent with it. So, I don't know. It's all complicated. Like it's complicated, but it's not. It's I've seen all sorts of different cultures. Seen insider views, and I'll always remember my sociology professor at CSU how he had a friend who was a state trooper, and he had another or he knew someone or colleague that was in the Hells Angels, one of the most notorious biker clubs or motorcycle clubs or biker gangs, whatever you want to call it, in America. And it's usually comprised of ex-soldiers, tough guys that and gals that kind of rebel against some of the laws, but still strive to keep order. And same with the mafia and like all that. They tried to keep order. Like the Goodfellas is a great movie to watch because that just explains like why, like what the whole mafia thing was about even. Like why were these people? And unfortunately, a lot of times it comes down to stealing, and I hate that. I've always hated that. And if you go into the criminal justice system, and if you spend any time in jail or prison or a halfway house or anything like that, you're going to find out that everybody else hates stealing too. Because taking a shortcut is one thing when it affects like a big company, and even then it's wrong. Because at the end of the day, you're still affecting somebody, and you're most likely not affecting the rich person at the top of the pyramid. You're affecting the people on the lower levels and cutting into their pay. So it needs to be more orchestrated. Whoa, that is some really cool looking mycelium or fungi or mushroom content. So, anyways, yeah, the best way is to elicit change through governments and to make it make sense for the poorest of the people. And once you've got it to where the poorest of the people can rise up, and America is like that. I mean, it might seem hard to some people, but once you give up a few things, like drinking is one of the biggest ones. And I gave up drinking, whew, going on 5 years now. I think it'll be 5 years. Well, no, I think it's 5 years by New Year's, so 4.5. Whatever. I mean, I don't put too much stock in accounting because it's not that hard for me anymore. I mean, it used to be. It's like, wait, why can't I go have fun like everybody else? Normal people go out, have a couple beers, and laugh and sing songs and play pool and do all that. But then you don't see the other, like the ugly side. Like they wake up with a hangover the next day, or they cheated on their significant other. Now they got to deal with that. Ooh, did they catch a disease? Like, because they were with somebody that wasn't, didn't pass the clearance of a relationship. Or did I get somebody pregnant? That's another thing. Like, or did I break a law? Or did I kill somebody driving a car? Or, all these things. Or did I do illegal hard drugs? Like, that's a big thing with drinking. Like, most normal people, if they're sitting around or using cannabis, they're not going to be like, oh, hey, let's go get some of this stuff. Like, no. It doesn't work like that. I don't know, not saying that's like a blanket statement for all hard drug use would disappear if alcohol kind of went away. And we know that you can't just take alcohol away. And actually, this is the thing. So one of my family members told me about how England or the United Kingdom, I think it was, they have an idea to quit tobacco. Like they agreed that at a certain age they're going to start phasing it out, and once you're like at a certain age, you can't get tobacco, or it's no longer a thing. And then, but that's taking something away without providing an alternative, or you can't. You got to be like Indiana Jones, like that famous scene where he's trying to steal the golden idol, and he has a bag of sand, and the golden idol is weighted, and if the golden idol ever leaves its podium, then it's going to trigger a trap that could be potentially deadly. Now, that's the same with addiction. The way our brains are wired, that if you just take something, if you just cut it off, you're going to have a bad time. It's going to be met with a lot of emotions, a lot of anger, a lot of regret, sadness, possible suicidal tendencies or aggressive and violent tendencies. It's bad. It's dangerous. And that's what a lot of people in rehab see, like somebody who's been, high on whatever drug or substance for a long time and abusing that substance for quite a while. And then you try to rip them out of their comfort zone and put them in a place where they no longer have any control over their lives. And then you basically tell them, you know what, you haven't been able to make good decisions, so I'm going to make the good decisions for you. And then they're most of the time not even good decisions. Like for-profit prisons are one of the biggest mistakes of this country. Like once we privatized prisons and made it to where a business, and then they're going to run it like a business. They're going to try to cut the expenses, keep it as cheap as they can so they can maximize their profits, and especially if they have shareholders, which most of them do, then you have a faceless boss or a faceless entity that's controlling this. And most of the times that faceless entity, had they known all of the facts, would be like, no, we don't need our money that bad to where somebody's living in these squalid conditions. And that's what's starting to happen. People are starting to communicate about what's going on here. And it's going to be tough, but again, you can't just take something without replacing it with something. Like all these people investing and like they need to be making their money or what have you. So, what humanity, at least in America, is doing, and I think it's happening all over the world, which is great, are slowly replacing the costs of living, like energy. So, President Biden just signed in a law, or no, it wasn't, it was part of a law that he did. And, no, hold on, got heartburn. Or dry throat, basically. But, anyways, so what he did, he was like the Green Deal or something. I was just reading the article in one of the more recent episodes, but basically, he did a thing, and now there's going to be a bunch of solar energy incentives here in Colorado and all over the country. But specifically, I saw like a dollar amount of what was being dedicated to here. I need some wool. Sorry, sheeps. And I still need one more wool. So we shall see. But anyways, oh, I thought that was a black sheep. But anyways, um, so now some lower income families are going to have a chance to get solar panels for their house, for their homes. And so that's a great first step, or like, early step. I shouldn't say first because there are things like that kind of tends to say or communicate that no, we haven't done anything, not a single thing before this, which just isn't true. I mean, we need to give people credit that yes, they are out there trying. And unfortunately, a lot of the reason we're in this mess in the first place is because we found, the combustion engine or the combustible engine that runs on fossil fuels, that we need to continue to mine and harvest these fossil fuels from the earth. And basically a bunch of our dead ancestors and dinosaurs, like all the organic life from way back when, we're now burning and using to power vehicles because it burns. And there's been a lot of boogeyman stories about how people have invented water-powered cars that produce no waste. The waste is water, like perfectly clean, fine water. Um, hydrogen cars, all these things. Like there's ideas out there. In fact, I was talking to one person I know that their dad worked for Ford Motor Company for many decades and was kind of in the know, and knew that they had an engine that would do this, and they never released it. They kept the patent on it, or they kept it like whatever, but they never released it because it would be horrible to their business. Now, now we find ourselves in a world where, and look at that haze. I'm not a big fan of that haze. I mean, it just reminds me of the smog cloud that's hanging over Denver, because that's what Denver is. It's a constant non-stop of people driving to work, driving home from work, driving to go do things, and then, and doing what they can to live a happy life. Now, yeah, it's interesting. So, Yeah, and speaking of that, I actually got two friends down in Denver that I want to try to get computers to. I haven't really been able to get good ones. Like I have one that's like kind of ready to go that I want to give to my friend, and she's got a couple of kiddos that want to learn computer science. They got the time, they got the dedication, the motivation, and I want to get to a point where I can teach. Well, I'm thinking about making a kids channel for YouTube. But before I do that, I'm going to practice with reading some open source books and then having a camera, kind of like how Anthony writes code, or I think his name's Anthony Solittle or something, or Solite. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but basically, he's a Twitch streamer that also has a YouTube channel. He actually rated me with like 130 people, and it was ridiculous. Like I was just starting out, maybe had like one or two viewers, and except for when I found out that if you do coding streams, you tend to get a lot of viewers because a lot of the computer nerds that like to code and are the enthusiasts and the puzzlers that like to solve puzzles with code, they also like to watch streamers and encourage them to continue doing stuff and kind of hyping up this like, and it's not even like a secluded world. Like it's just, I mean, if you don't ask, you won't receive the answers. And you know, and yeah, a lot of the computer science world and the tech world is open source and like anti-greed because they see the value in letting everybody in this. Nobody should be banned or kept from, cool things like that for any reason. I mean, it's the Sneetches with the stars upon theirs. And for those that don't know, because I don't know if there's people watching this in other countries, but the Sneetches is a Dr. Seuss book that basically tells about how people are all the same, and it's silly to think that any person is better than another person because of appearances or because they follow a different religion. Like, it's just silly. We're all people. We all have similar humors, similar wants, similar desires, similar ticks, similar things that make us angry. Um, and I know I've traveled the world. I've been to Thailand, Malaysia, Dubai, India. India and Dubai were a couple of my favorites because like Dubai, it's such a clean and like they're almost scared into keeping it like a paradise because the penalties for doing stuff are so severe that, who would ever? But that's like ruling through fear or coercion, which is actually technically terrorism. That's the definition of it, is to rule or en enforce things or encourage things through fear, intimidation, or violence. Now, or like even in Saudi Arabia, I think it was like if you were caught as a drug dealer, you would get your hand chopped off. And it's like, imagine going the rest of your life without a hand. I mean, we think things are bad in America where you have to pay a hefty fine and be labeled a criminal for a certain amount of time, but you still get to keep your hands. And we've developed what's called cruel and unusual punishment. And even back to the times of Hammurabi's code, the punishment needs to fit the crime. And that's why I protest the war on drugs. Like, it's a ridiculous war. A war on American citizens that was only made to target political opponents in the Nixon era. And then in the Reagan era, it was amplified and magnified to cover up the fact that the government supplied most of the cocaine back in those days. And now we have that movie, American Made, with Tom Cruise, basically explaining that. Be like, it was an oopsie from the CIA that was trying to spy on communists down in Central and South America, and they needed spy planes. Sorry, I'm gonna totally spoil the movie for you, but it's a great movie. You can still watch it without knowing this. But basically, and I've heard like rumors about that, like how the CIA imported most of the drugs during the beginnings of the war on drugs, and it is true. And then you have Nancy Reagan on TV saying, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no. But she included alcohol, which was interesting. And again, it's the wealthy leading the wealthy. So it's really easy for her to sit up on her high horse and say, just say no. Like it's super easy because at the end of her day, she gets to go home to a nice, big, lavished house with a family. No real worries, not worried about where she's going to get her food or transportation or shelter. I mean, whereas the rest of the world, it's like, phew, you got to go to college. Well, college costs about 30 to 60 grand. Well, I don't have that much. Like, well, you can take student debts that are going to entrap you for the next few decades, but by the time you're almost dead, you'll pay off your loans and your debt to just get this education, which is still a gamble because it's not guaranteed that you'll get a good career. And so that's just my point, is these wealthy people, they don't understand the plight of the common person, the tragedy of the commons. Like, I don't know. I think that's actually a different thing. Like if everything was free to use, then nobody will really step up to take care of it unless told to or unless they know. Then it tends to fall into disrepair and yeah, it's a bad time. Oh wait, where are we going? Jeez. Whoops, my bad. We gotta kind of cut back down this way. Not doing too good about zigging and zagging. I'll tell you what. And people are starting to figure that out. The more people communicate and use social media and talk to each other, and that's the thing. It's a very prickly thing to be on the X app and to argue with a bunch of people around the world, mostly in America. Um, but I was doing it for a long time, and I would say some outrageous thing like Republicans want to kill children with guns, like something like that, which I know is just completely ridiculous. And most Republicans are perfectly normal, and they don't approve of all that. Same with most Democrats. Like, and even then, who you vote for, that's why there's a much larger and growing number of people that are independent or they're in between. Like they agree with things from both sides, but at the same time, there's some radical stuff that's been blown out of proportion and just like not fair and not even normal. Here, let's go ahead and let's get some more spider eyes while we're out and about. We need that and that and that and that. Okay, so the next night we'll sleep so we don't get phantoms, and then the next night after that, we'll start killing spiders. So we got to get more spider eyes. Like that is kind of an interesting mechanic where the new mob gets fed by something that is dropped by hostile mobs. So people like me that generally like to play in peaceful would have to go through extra hoops to get the items. Now, a lot of people on YouTube and Twitch, they like to play in hardcore mode, for the bragging rights of look how good I can play this game or look how good I am at surviving or, overcoming adversity. And that's great. I mean, if I was younger, I'd probably have a channel right there, but now that I'm older, I'm more about okay, those are good problems. Those are like good beginner level entry problems. Now let's try to be a fisher of humans. Because again, like the Bible's saying a lot of stuff like that. A fisher of men. Well, that's some BS. Like, what about the women? They don't matter. Well, humans is what he meant to say. But it's weird for a human to say that because then it's like, what are you, some kind of alien or something? Like, and I'm not, by the way. But just kidding. I don't know. Am I? Am I? Thinking about Rick and Morty, that episode of Simulations. Like, are you in a simulation? Are you? No. Or wait, maybe. And he's just messing with them. And it's messed up because and there's karma in that episode, and that I won't spoil, but I'll just say that it has a very funny ending. But funny, violent, but deserving. Oh, I haven't even seen the new Rick and Morty's. That show, that's a trip. Has a lot of interesting ideas. But basically, and what you need to remember, like through all of this, watching these videos, watching any of the videos I suggest on here, or the TV shows or episodes or what have you, you need to take everything with a grain of salt. Understand this all comes from a place of just entertainment and stuff. Like, I think we were supposed to have like the 50th Rapture on the 24th. Oh, crud, I need to get my plates. So, yes, a little backstory. I got a new used car. It's very nice, very fancy, very expensive, but now that I have a good job, and it's really just so I can take my kids safely from point A to point B over and over and over again. Because my former car was actually breaking down on me, and it wasn't even my car, it was my mom's backup car. And it's not like she's rich and fancy or anything. She just knew that one of her kids was going to need it, so she kept the old one around and then got a new one for herself, which wasn't even like. Anyways, long story short, we're a lower to middle class family. We're not fancy by any means, but that's the best place to get a perspective on humanity and see, okay, we need to fix this problem. Oh my gosh, that was scary. Anytime that it just drops out like that, like, okay, that I could have survived that, but you never know. I have died like that, like just fallen into a crevice in the middle of exploring. In fact, I did it on camera once. I fell off, what was that, like an ice biome? Anyways, whenever you get a new car, you got to get plates, and I can't just transfer the plates. I got to do this and that and this and that, and it's expensive for insurance. And so I don't like if I didn't have this really amazing job that paid decently, like I wouldn't be able to do it, or I'd have to wait like multiple years to do what I'm doing now, and it shouldn't take that. So those are some problems that I intend to address, like through communication, understanding, and peaceful resolution. Just communicating to all parties involved that insurance is a scam and it needs to stop and we need to make it. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that are employed by insurance companies, and that's again like these entities that control prices and protocols and procedures and whatnot. They are the way they are. Oh, geez, I also just realized if I do die, my respawn point is now gone. So I gotta be extra careful. But I'm almost a quarter to a third of the way done exploring this. Oh shoot, actually, you know what? It's almost time for me to go to work. So I got about 5 minutes, and then I gotta get some things done. So, oh wow, this is nice. You know what? This is so nice. I'm gonna take this back to, and this is the England thing. Like you explore places, like, oh, I'm gonna take this back home, and look how cool this is. And like a lot of cultures and like people around the world are now suing England and trying to get their treasures back, or the descendants of people that they were stolen from are like, hey now. But I mean, this is a game, remember. So this entire world belongs to me, and I'm doing as I see fit. Actually, as I say that, it's hard. It's a toss-up. Just like acting like a good Christian or a good Muslim or a good Jewish person, like, following the holy books and living a good life. That's why it's so hard, and there's a lot of problems that way, is because it's almost too hard to live all saintly and perfect. But then, often people in the religious circles will say, well, it's just a guideline, it's just a goal to reach for, or try to live and abide by. Oh, and I also need to get back in and organize these. I was doing such a good job. Not really. I need to edit some of these, add intros, outros. So, appreciate those of you that watch these early on. They will continue to get better. And actually, eventually, I'm going to make my kids do the editing and stuff as jobs, like as chores. If they want nice things, they're going to have to work for it, and then that'll teach them valuable skills. And already, they think in terms of, like, what can I do for work to get certain rewards, and then let's make a deal, basically. Oh, wait, I already got, like, a stack and a half almost. Nice. Because basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all this stuff closer to the base, and then for the bees and for all that. Eventually what we need to do is incorporate nature and animals and insects and all that, and like natural life, into our own living. Like building more trees and parks and like preserving nature areas. And then at the same time building multi-unit living facilities, because a person doesn't need a vast expanse of land and a huge old house. And like Joel Osteen comes to mind. What a prick. Like he's got a mega mansion and he preaches the teachings of Jesus, like and if Jesus was alive today, and that's assuming any of that stuff in the Bible is true, and not just a fabricated story to control the masses and make them think that they're doing a good thing and control themselves, and blah blah blah. Jesus would be disgusted because he was a poor person that would give the shirt off his back to help to make sure that someone who's going through a rough time felt better or had a better life. Like, and there's Joel, and granted he did open up his doors during a flood or a storm. I was reading, but okay, that's one thing. But I mean, do you really need like if he was a real child of God, like, and that's that true Scotsman fallacy. Like, you're not a real true Scotsman, and they keep moving the goalposts, as it were. But if he was a true servant of God, we would be hearing about him building apartments for the poor, and just be like, there you go, and just temporary housing that, when you're going through a rough time, you hit rock bottom, you come here, you live here with a few sets of rules, probably no alcohol, but I don't know, cannabis and fungi should probably still be okay. But anyways, and then you move on to your next living arrangement and you continue to work, like get a job, get some education. But again, there's people out there, a lot of my colleagues and a lot of YouTubers and people that I don't even know are doing a lot of the similar things, like trying to teach the masses, trying to provide free education. Like Mario's Math Tutor. I love that channel. I watch a few videos here and there. And I always throw a like when I can, or when I watch one of his videos, because I don't even care if the video itself was good. The overall thing his channel is doing is good, which is teaching math. Like in a nice, relaxing, like you don't have to, it's less stressful than people going to a school and being put on the spot. They get to look at it and be like, okay, that makes sense. Now I'm going to try it and do a little, and then, that makes total sense. Same with computer science. Like as soon as anybody, almost anybody learns like how to write computer code, one of the first things they do is run off to the races to go make a YouTube channel and teach other people how to do it, because it's so fun and rewarding, and it's useful too. Because the problem solving that you do in computer science actually does help you make tools that will make other people's lives better. And again, back to that voting system, like that we started at the beginning of this episode. If we can make a clear and transparent voting system to where even the most poor, uneducated person, the person that's been down and out for generations, can look at it and be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. There was no cheating. Then you know you've succeeded. Because as it is, it's a lot of take my word for it or take the court's word for it. And then you got a lot of people still yelling fraud and elections and stolen and all this and interference and meddling, and like the degree or the relevance of the meddling isn't really published or known. It's just, oh, there was some foul play. Well, there's always going to be some foul play. People are always going to try to game the system and thinking that they're doing it for their own righteous, holy, vendetta or whatever. Just like the Spanish Inquisition would go around torturing and killing people if they weren't Christian. Like, there's some really dark things that humanity has done in the name of what is holy and what is right, quote unquote. All right, but now let's see where we at. Yeah, 30 minutes. I got to get to work. All right, ta-ta for now. We will continue this. Probably not today. Got my kiddos today, and I usually don't do these musings on days that I have kiddos. And I hate that all people would have to do is like look at the timestamps and be like, oh, he has these kids on these days. Well, I also work from home randomly, so I'm always here. Not that I even have a lot of stuff to steal. I got a PS5 that's pretty nice, but I also got, anyways. If anyone were ever try anything, I even have renter's insurance, so technically it wouldn't even be that big of a blow, but you'd be hurting because you'd get caught. And there's air tags in everything I have. Oh, there's a dog. And what an air tag is a tracker. So if it gets stolen, I know exactly where it is. Yay! I was like, oh man, come on. I only have 5 bones. So now we have a dog for the dog armor. But anyways, like I said, let's go ahead and stop for now. Hey, Poochie. Ta-ta. I will see you in the next one. Be kind to everyone. Or be kind to each other. Respect each other. And respect yourself. Alright, see ya. Yes, indeed.